Time for the weird boner part of the podcast. Here we go.
Thank you. I was waiting for the weird boner, one. And two, come on. You can feel the fucking passion and the excitement that Brad has for the Frank. Welcome to, hey, did you ever see that movie? That Halloween show?
45 seconds in, already fucked it up. That's awesome. And you're not even trying to pronounce anyone's name yet either. That's great.
I was fucking nervous. I'm your host, Des.
Nervous.
I'm your host, Des, and if this was Rocky Horror, I would be Frankenfooter. I am joined tonight by three former Shadow cast members from the Boston Harvard Square production of Rocky Horror Picture Show. First up, my squeaky little co-host, Lynn, who played Magenta.
Don't dream it, be it.
And joining us again, the podcaster with a degree in terror, Tony, who played Eddie.
That's all I got.
Okay. And last but not least, the podcaster with legendary status. We just barely got her to come on the show. She had to break away for her super popular podcast, heard by millions all over the world. And she played Janet. Bam.
Hey.
Tonight, we will be discussing the 1975 Rocky Horror Picture Show, written by Richard O'Brien and Jim Sherman, directed by Jim Sherman. Well, I spelled it with an A the first time. So, there you go. Starring Tim Curry, not the late great, which I had originally, Susan Sarandon, Barry Bostwick, and the great Meatloaf. As always, this podcast will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it, then come back and listen to the podcast. That was fucking butter, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
He really did have the late great Tim Curry. I was like, dude, he's not dead.
He's just in a chair. That's all.
He's in a wheelchair, but he's not dead.
Not dead yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
I got better.
Please take a moment to like and subscribe and comment if you're listening on YouTube. And if you're listening on Apple, please leave a 5-star review because it helps. And if you would like to commission a movie for yourself for a small pittance of $30, please contact us on our Facebook page. It would help with the expenses of producing this show. We're 150 episodes in and this still has never happened. So
It's not 150 episodes yet, kid.
Okay. Let's do some opening thoughts. So my first experience with Rocky Horror is seeing the Shadow cast in Harvard Square in 1984 as a 14-year-old. I've seen the movie lots of times since that, but probably not in about 7 years or so. So the question is, did it hold up to my review? Spoiler alert, yes it did. Dylan, have you ever seen the movie before?
Maybe about 10,000 times, but yeah, I've seen it before.
Okay. And Tony, I'm assuming you've seen it?
I have. Dylan, what was your first time seeing it? Let's go that way.
Yes.
Oh, geez. My first time seeing it was probably in my cousin's living room. She and her parents loved it, and she was younger than me, so I'm not quite sure how that happened, but she was like, you got to see this thing. It's really cool. And I watched it. I was like, I have no idea what it is, but I love it. So that was my first time seeing it.
Tony, what about you? What was your first time?
First time I was 16, Harvard Square. I stayed over a friend's house and we said, hey, we're all going to do this. And then we decided to take the T into Harvard Square. And we went and saw it, blew our mind, like, this is awesome. So, 16-year-old, it's like, oh, boobies on the screen, boobies on the stage. This is great. So it's like, we gotta do this more. And we got out and it was pouring rain and the T stops running in Boston at 1. We had no way to get home. So I called my dad and my dad told me to go fuck myself and go find your own way home. And I got the beating of my life when I got home, but it was worth it because, that was my first time seeing it. Boobies made it all worthwhile. Speaking of boobies, Pam, what was your first time seeing it?
So my first time seeing it, I had older cousins, and my first time seeing it, I went with my two cousins, Pam and Matt, and I was probably 9. There was no shadow cast. We showed up dressed up. I had heard the soundtrack a billion times because my cousin was obsessed with it. And got out and did the time warp and did all that. People did do that. They just didn't have a shadow cast in Worcester at the time. And that was my first time ever seeing it.
Now, Pam, I got a question. Has your 15-year-old daughter ever seen the movie?
Not yet. She wants to, and it's in the works to bring her at some point because I think she's ready to go. But friends want to come too, and one of them is in New York, so I want to make sure she's here. So it's kind of like a whole. We have to sort of plan that out.
All right, you gotta let me know when that is, so we can basically get the
100%.
second generation. I'll get Nick.
Yeah.
We'll get George and Tracy to bring Logan.
Yep.
We'll get the second
Yep.
generation Rocky kids in. Well,
Yep.
third at this point. Yeah.
We'll bring our fucking cat. It'll be a fucking party. Okay.
Thanks.
Let's do some quick facts on this one. I just got one. Well, first of all, my first fact is this is way better than Clue. So there you go.
Oh, Jesus.
Huzzah! Second one. So the opening scene in Song Science Fiction Double Feature consists of the lips of Patricia Quinn, who appears in the film as the character Magenta. I thought that was interesting. I was watching the movie and it started off with the lips, and immediately I thought to myself, whose lips are those? And Googled it, and there you go. Now you all know. Dylan, you got any facts on this?
So, riding on your fact, that is her lips, but it is Richard O'Brien singing, who plays
Right.
Riff Raff. So
Yep.
it's, even though it's her lips, she is not singing that. So there's a couple of really quick things I'm going to do. I'm not going to go too deep because we'd be here all night. So we're not going to do that. This movie started Easter eggs because there are literal Easter eggs on the set. Because they had an Easter egg hunt, like just for fun, and people didn't find them all. So every now and again, yeah. And I've never sat down and like tried to catch them all, but there are actual Easter eggs that you can find in the movie. And one of the other things is there's a connection to David Bowie beyond just the kind of cross-dressing, kind of gender fluid situation. The makeup for the characters was designed by Pierre Laroche, who also is credited with doing the lightning bolt, the Ziggy Stardust lightning bolt. So I thought that
I
was
didn't
really
know
cool.
that.
Yeah,
That
I
is
didn't
cool.
either. I just found out today when I was doing research. So
Tony, got any facts on this?
Nothing that it's one of those. This is one of those movies that any fact you bring up, short of that amazing research with the makeup, I didn't realize that either. Is they're all things that anyone who's watched Rocky and likes Rocky already knows. So I feel like
Right.
it's just this is one of those movies. I feel like anything I'm going to bring to the table outside of personal experience is just going to insult the Rocky audience. So like, duh, yeah, we know that. It's like me listening to a horror podcast going, all right, just, yeah, Friday the 13th. Yeah, I got it. Like, let's just move on. So I don't want to embarrass myself and just like do it.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'll toss to Pam if she has anything.
Pam, you got anything on this?
No. I do know. I can't credit whose they are, but in the poster, the lips in the poster aren't Patricia Quinn's. Like the actual lips there
Yeah.
are some other person. It's not someone from the movie. It was just, I think, like a random model or did that. So it's kind of weird how.
Actually, those lips belonged to one Farrah Fawcett.
No, sir.
did it? No,
No.
sir.
You just Google.
It didn't.
He's making shit up.
I'm making shit up.
No.
Okay. It's one of my
all right,
bullshit
what
facts.
was the tagline for the poster? Anybody remember?
A different set of jaws.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Tribute to the
Awesome.
best movie ever, Jaws. Thank you very much.
Yes. All right. Yeah, one of the first podcasts we did with Tony, and it is audibly almost unlistenable. So we need to do that one again. That was like episode
okay.
2. I think that was like episode 2. We were all like recording into fucking Coke cans with string. It wasn't good. Okay. Quick box office here. So Rocky Horror Picture Show was filmed over 6 weeks with a budget of $1.4 million and had a worldwide box office gross of roughly $117 million. It's a shitload of money back then. I mean, I think that's probably total. The movie did not get good critical acclaim when it came out originally, but I mean, people loved it and it took off. And now, people think it's amazing. And is it? I don't know. We're going to find out.
It's the longest running movie. I think it's been running nonstop since 1975.
With good
So,
reason. With
yeah.
good reason. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's funny too. I also checked this out. So the movie was released in 1975, and the first shadow cast performance in Boston in Harvard Square was 1984. So it took about 9 years for this whole thing to like cultivate and become a thing, which I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, 9 years, it could have
Well,
just blown away into
Pre-internet.
the yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was going on in New York for a long time. I mean, the movie Fame came out in 1980, and there's a scene of the cast of Fame going to a midnight showing of it with Sal
Right.
Piro and all of that. So, I mean, it was going on in New York for I think at least 1979.
There was also Harvard Square cast started with a cast in Boston at Exeter Street too. So
Oh.
they might have. I don't know if your date is for Harvard, and
That
then
was just
maybe
for
they
Harvard.
started- yeah, so it started in the Boston area before that.
All right. Well, it's interesting. I was just thinking, 9 years from release to that shadow casting. I just thought, in 9 years, a lot can happen. And it was very interesting to me that the movie picked up steam again like that and just became this thing that went all over the country and opened up in all these little small, cities and stuff. I thought it was pretty cool. All right. So I have done a Fast Five for tonight. And it's going to be Cult Classic Showdown. Now, if you don't know the movie, just pretend like you do and pick one. Nobody knows. Doesn't really matter what your answer is because, as we all know, my answer is the correct answer. I tried to keep them. Go ahead, Tony.
Except for Clue.
Except for Clue. I tried to keep them all so you knew what they were, but at the same time, they weren't like, Fight Club or something like that. So there you go. All right. So Fast Five. Let's get into it. Number one, we've got the Rocky Horror Picture Show going up against aforementioned Clue.
Oh, you
Tony.
asshole. You're an asshole.
Tony, which one's better?
As a movie, Clue.
Oh,
As a
fuck
phenomenon, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Come on, guy. Okay. So, Lynn, which one is better?
I'm going to have to go with Rocky.
And Pam.
I also have to go with Rocky.
The correct answer is Rocky Horror Picture Show because Clue sucked. Number two, Reservoir Dogs or A Clockwork Orange. Tony, which one is better?
Oh, fuck you.
Yeah,
I gotta say, pass. Go to somebody else first. I gotta think on this one. Dylan, what do you got first?
All right, Dylan.
I'm going to go Reservoir Dogs.
Pam, which one?
Yeah, I have to go Reservoir Dogs as well. But that's personal taste. I mean, Clockwork Orange is an iconic movie. What do you know?
Tony, did you talk to your people? What'd you come back with?
I did. Clockwork Orange. I grew up with it. I had the soundtrack when I was like 10. So it's like I had to go Clockwork Orange. I was a really weird kid.
No, the correct answer is A Clockwork Orange because it's a Clockwork Orange. Come on. Okay.
Yeah.
Number three, Blade Runner or The Warriors. Tony, which one's better?
Oh, fucking love The Warriors. The Warriors is like a top 10 for me. I love it.
And Lynn.
Blade Runner. It just looks so good.
Pam.
I think The Warriors.
Okay, the correct answer is Blade Runner all day. I mean, you got Vangelis. I listen to this fucking album at work on my headphones. I go to sleep to Blade Runner ambiance with the black screen every night. Correct answer is Blade Runner all day long. Okay, and number four, Clerks or Mallrats. Tony, which one's better?
Oh, Clerks by a fucking mile. Easy.
And Lynn.
Clerks is better, but I'm going to go with Mallrats just because of personal preference.
And Pam.
Clerks.
Okay, it's not even close. The correct answer is Mallrats. Okay, so
Fuck you.
That's way better.
That's like a welfare Clerks.
Way better movie. Way better movie. Okay, number five, the final one. Big Trouble in Little China or This is Spinal Tap. Tony, which one's better?
Oh, fucking Spinal Tap. It's a documentary. It's a literal documentary.
It is. Well, not literally, but okay.
No, it is.
Lynn, which one?
Spinal Tap. You get it.
And
Spinal Tap.
Pam, which one's better?
Final Tap, 100%.
The correct answer is Spinal Tap because it goes to 11, of course. Okay. There we go. So Tony got a few wrong, but we'll forgive him. Let me give you a little synopsis. A newly engaged couple have a breakdown in an isolated area and must seek shelter at a bizarre residence of Dr. Frankenfurter. There you go.
That was quite the breakdown.
Thank you.
It's pretty basic.
Oh my
All right.
goodness. All right.
Glenn, let's get it started.
All right. So a little bit different from what we normally do. I'm going to try to keep the scenes as small as possible so there's more time for us to talk about our experiences with the movie and what we think of the movie. So over the opening credits, a large set of women's lips in red lipstick sing the opening song, Science Fiction Double Feature. Brad Majors and Janet Weiss are attending the wedding of Ralph and Betty in Denton, Ohio. Inspired by the events around him, Brad asks Janet to marry him in a song. Damn it, Janet. And she accepts. Joyous, the couple decide to go tell their old friend Dr. Everett Scott the good news. Appearing all throughout the movie, a criminologist comes on and explains that we're about to embark on a strange journey following the misadventures of Brad and Janet. In Rocky, when you go to see it, we would have Trixie. And Trixie would come out and sing the opening song. So you weren't just staring at a pair of lips with nothing going on. And usually somebody would dress up and do something fun. And a lot of times, if you were a cast member and you showed up on the night that wasn't your night and you came dressed up, they would just be like, go out and sing Trixie. And you just would. And it was fun. And we really loved doing that. If you were a virgin, if it was your first time coming to Rocky, they would make you stand in front of the crowd and pop your cherry with like a balloon, and then they would make, they would.
They wouldn't actually fuck you on stage. Yeah. It's not it's not intercourse. Not yet. We wait till wedding scene for that, but we'll get to that.
And then a lot of times, one of the people would get to be the bride in the next scene, in the wedding scene, which was always fun. So
cool. So the movie opens up. Like I said, I hadn't seen this in a long, long time, and I think that most of my views of this movie were maybe not sitting down and really paying attention to it, at a party or whatever. And this time I actually watched it like a movie. And I was asking Dylan some questions. We get this opening scene after the wedding, and they're going to show you Magenta, Frank, and Riff Raff standing on the steps of the church. And at first, Frank is staring at us, and he kind of looks over at Riff Raff, gives him this kind of nefarious look, and then turns his back to the camera. So for me, I felt and I also felt like this director was not doing anything by accident. I felt like everything meant something in this movie, kind of. And I've got some ideas towards the end, you'll see some things that I see that are pretty cool. So yeah, these aliens have taken over this church, and they are using this church to lure human play toys back to the castle. And this is alluded when the director is hinting at this, when he has the detective circle all of their heads in red. He's saying, there it is. So that's what I thought. Dylan said no. She said the scene didn't mean anything. I disagree. Tony, did you ever have your cherry popped on stage, and what do you think of the opening?
I've popped many a cherry myself, but I have not actually had my own on stage. Thank you. Yes. I've been a lot of cleanup after the red. I think you've read too many film books. I think that you're looking way too much into this.
No.
With any other movie, I would go, that's a really good point, Des. I really like the way you're thinking. This one, you're I know there's so much wrong with this movie as it goes on, and I love that you're looking for more with it. You could be right. I could be completely close. I think maybe around 8,948th time I've seen it, I go, no, there's really nothing more to this. So I feel that I appreciate that they're in the intro scene. I think it's literally just to give them more screen time. I think it's just a fun little add-on. I don't think it's anything more than that, because they're going to see Dr. Scott. They don't. The people in the church don't know where they're going. They can't lead them there. They can't make the tire go flat. Nothing like that. So I think that's way too much in it. To go back to just the intro of Rocky, one of my favorite things about being in Rocky was the pre-shows, being creative. What our cast always did, and I know a lot of casts do, I don't know how many they do, but there was always 3 songs before the movie. Audience would come in, get them seated, we'd yell at them for a while, give them the quick rules, blah, 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 as they're coming in. And then we do 2 songs that whatever was the quirky, weird song of the month, song of the year that might have been cool and fun, and we'd make it sexual. We'd make it dirty. We'd make it erotic. We'd do something where if someone was in their underwear, we'd throw something at the crowd. We'd get them involved, get them hyped up. The third song is always time warp. Get them up, show them how to do the time warp before the actual movie, so they don't fuck it up during the screen while the screen's going on. And then Frank comes out, does the whole thing, does the intro, welcomes the audience. It's a big event. You have fun with it. It's a show. Give them the rule. Don't touch the actors. They could touch you. Don't throw anything at the screen, which I will say, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but one of the things that I'm most proud of our cast for doing, we couldn't throw things. When we first joined, we couldn't throw things. That was a big part of New York, big part of the cast. We couldn't do it. It wasn't until midway through, I guess, my tenure, we met with the theater manager, look, we really want to bring this back. Can we do that? And she's like, well, as long, we already got a cleanup crew, so why not? And they let us do it. We were like shocked. So then we started selling the stuff. We started having more fun with it. Crowd was really, really into it. And it really brought the whole experience back to Harvard Square at the time. And they've continued it over at AMC now. So I guess that's my rambling for this part of it. As far as the movie is a movie. And the funny thing is, even when like you're giving the summary, Brad Majors and Janet Weiss, I'm like, I can't yell. It's like
Asshole.
it instantly just comes. Having done it for so long, I could be in a library and someone like, "Oh, hey, Janet," and I just instantly want to just yell "slut." It's instinctual,
That gets
built
you in
into me.
trouble.
Like, I tried watching in the past. I've tried watching the movie just as a movie with like friends who have never seen it, and I'm like, all I hear is Steve Bernstein in the background bellowing out obscenities of like midway through the movie. It's in my head. I can't watch the movie as not it. Oh, it's so good. Pam, I stepped on your toes. Go ahead, Pam. What do you got?
Yeah, Pam, what do you think of the opening of the movie? Do you agree with me?
I actually think that maybe we should be giving Des a little credit here because, they are aliens.
Yes.
So maybe they can know things and maybe they can make tires go flat.
Sure.
He has an antimatter laser. Why not? Shoot the tire out.
And then the irony is that having them in the front of the movie like that before they come out as their actual characters is a bit of an Easter egg.
It is. It is. Hey, Tony, you remember when we did Invasion of the Body Snatchers, we get the priest swinging on the swing, letting us know here's the alien. And he's looking at people strangely. They're doing the exact same thing here. And I think that Brad even says something when the tire, she goes, "You're lost. Where are you?" He's like, "I followed the signs." They've got the signs set up to fuck people up to get them down there. Okay, so keep the adventure going.
One thing I did want to bring up before I forgot to, I've never seen it, but there's a version of the movie where the entire movie up until they bust open the doors during Time Warp is in black and white. And I thought that was so cool because it's like the whole, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. And I was like, that would have been so fucking cool. Like I kind of am almost a little disappointed that we didn't get that. It's a cool nod to the Wizard of Oz, which I thought
it's on one of the anniversary Blu-rays. I'm not sure if it's like the 30th, 35th, the 40th, or whatever it is, but I'm pretty sure that version is like adjusted to be on one of the DVDs somewhere.
It should all be like that. It should all be like that because that's amazing. Because that scene is so colorful and just flamboyant and just, to give it that extra pop.
All right. So Brad and Janet are driving in the rainy night and get a flat tire. With no other options, they decide to walk to the large house they passed and to use a phone to call for help. They sing "There's a Light" on their wet walk until they arrive on the front doorstep of the castle. Brad knocks and the door is opened by Riffraff, a tall, gaunt, balding butler in a stark black suit. He allows them inside under the pretense of using their phone. They meet Riffraff's sister, the maid Magenta, and the time warp is performed by them and a gathering of Transylvanians, along with Columbia, a sequin-spangled dancer. So the time warp almost didn't make it into the movie, which is crazy to me. Like it was not even part of the show initially, and they wanted to make the show longer. So he wrote the time warp, and it's like, can you imagine this movie without the time warp? Like I can't even.
No.
It's such a cornerstone. It's like you say the time warp, and people know exactly what you're talking about. They know the dance. Everybody knows it. It's like if you hadn't put that in there, I don't know if this is quite the hit that it became.
Yeah.
I forgot how stylistic this movie was. I always knew it was like this great musical and, but you forget like how good all of these sets and scenes look that they give you and how it goes. I mean, I was saying to Dylan, it's shot in the 70s. So obviously it's going to remind me of certain movies here and there from the genre, which we'll get into. I don't want to tip my hat, but the scene of Brad and Janet walking to the castle, this has that creep show vibe to me. We get the scene swipe where the scene changes from left to right. This reminds me of the swipe of a comic book. We get the lightning strike over exaggerated in the sky. They do this a couple of times. It looks so good. Then we get this scene, this sign on the fence, "Enter at your own risk." And they make a point of like really closing up on it and showing it. It's so fucking Scooby-Doo. It's Saturday morning adventure. It's so much fun. I couldn't believe how good this movie looked. It was one of the things that really surprised me on this view. This is so obvious, but I mean, immediately when I saw Riff Raff, I'm thinking Igor, Young Frankenstein, came out a year earlier. I mean, I don't think I'm breaking any ground with this, but I was like, oh, it's Igor. And then, like we were just saying, this time warp scene, it's one of the best scenes in the movie. Columbia is so good in this with that fucking gold outfit and that fucking cherry red hair. I forgot how much that character was just a banger. I loved it. And then we get the inspector joining in, dancing and showing us the steps with this little fucking dude. I was smiling. I was smiling. It was amazing. Tony, what do you got?
Too much. It just, I mean, it sets up the whole movie. I mean, pretty much this is the in my opinion, and again, it's just my opinion. This movie it's a three-quarters entertainment movie. It goes, it goes, it goes, it goes. You after Eddie dies, it's just like, all right, now let's just get the floor show. It's really there's so much space in the middle there. It's just like, eh. But yeah, Time Warp it's iconic. It's amazing. Everyone knows it. It's fun to do. The music fun. The costume, bright, flashy colors. You're 100% right. For a movie that was like a cheesy musical, like originally, like, hey, let's put this out. It looks phenomenal. I mean, it really does. I mean, there was so much effort put into everything about it. The appearance of it, I should say. The acting is obviously, what are you going to do? But yeah, and it's just funny because all the things that you noticed are things that became noticed by the audience. Like they hold up on that sign for way too long because it's so cartoonish. That part of the movie is they stop and say E-N-T. The audience spells it out because it takes so fucking long to read it. Like everything in this movie is made fun of. Any minute, any minuscule, every little detail has been picked apart by the audience, and it's hard to really pick out trivia for it because the audience has been doing it for decades. To go through every AP line that we've heard, that we know, every once in a while I'll go back and visit the cast and just, let me see how things are going. And none of the old lines are there. They're all new lines, and I feel stupid. I'm like, hey, so it's like, I don't want to be that old guy yelling like things from the 70s and 80s, but it's like, it's cool that they've picked up on so much more that I never noticed. And it's so much fun. Like the one thing I'm going to just say over and over, like you just got to see it in the audience. You got to go see it live. You can't watch it on DVD. You can't watch it when VH1 shows it. You can't watch it with your friends in the living room. You got to go see it with an audience that knows it. And the thing, it's funny, the handful of people I bought get so angry, like I can't hear the movie. It's like you're not really supposed to hear the movie.
You're not supposed to. Watch it at home first and then go and see it live because it's a completely different experience.
Exactly. It's like people are literally like, well, I can't. People keep laughing and yelling shit. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, you just enjoy it.
Yeah, laugh and yell and have fun.
Look, boobs. Yeah, there you go.
So Delyn and I actually commented on the acting because you were talking about the acting, and I was actually really surprised at how good the acting was and the commitment to these actors. Like specifically Columbia, like some of the facial expressions she's making, how hard she's contorting her face and just like showing expression. I was blown away. It was giving me the feels.
I think a lot of it is a lot of them are stage actors. And when you are a stage actor, you have to emote so that they see you in the back row doing it. And they forget that the camera's right here. So she's making that big face for the stage, but it just works because everyone is so fucking committed. Everybody's doing it. And it's like, it's almost cheese, but it's like, everyone's so committed to the cheese that you believe it.
It's over the top campy, but they've got their makeup so dialed in. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I think Damage. Oh my God, I almost fucked the song up. Damn it. I'm going to do it again. When they can't move their feet. Totally.
Planet Schmanet Janet.
Thank you. Like my song, like I can't move my, like it's so over dramatic. I know it. And again, because it's a musical, it's okay. But as a real movie, it's like Academy Award winning Susan Sarandon in this movie. Like, she like, legitimately, not just over dramatic, committed to that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. The commitment was really the charm. Pam.
Poor Pam for Janet in the Time Warp is just a lot of looking mortified and passing out. Yeah. While the rest of us are doing our thing, poor Janet just spends a lot of time going,
unconscious.
Pam, on the stage. So I have this question because it's been so long since I've seen the stage thing. So were you guys standing around like in your tighty whities and stuff on stage?
We sure were.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now I know why you were Janet.
He just he just went third grade kid. He pulled a Beavis on us. That was great.
Yeah, fun story about that is that at the time that I joined the cast, I was living with my great aunt and uncle, and she was a seamstress, so she made my costumes. Obviously, she didn't make my underwear, but she made my dresses, and I was very particular about she knew what the movie was about. She had seen bits and pieces of it because of my cousins, like her children. But I was so particular about everything being so screen accurate. And somehow the conversation never came up about, well, what is she wearing once they take her clothes off? Like she never asked. I never told. I'm pretty sure it was kind of a don't ask, don't tell situation.
Right.
So Auntie Sissel, I'm sorry, but rest in peace.
That's funny. And when you do finally take your daughter to go see this, she's going to be like, "What character did you play again, Mom?"
Oh,
And
no,
you're going to
she
have to say,
knows.
"I was Janet." Really?
No, she knows.
Do we
She
have any
knows.
VHS of this performance?
I'm sure there's some somewhere,
Yeah,
but oh
I
Lord.
don't.
Oh,
But
I would love to see it.
I have a library.
Oh, dude,
Oh,
Tony,
God.
you've got some recordings of the cast performing.
I was the
Oh, I would
director,
love.
so I had to have some.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that. That sounds
his
amazing.
private collection.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so I mean, so Pam, you talked about how your aunt helped make a costume. Dylan, who made yours, or how
I
did?
did.
Let me take. I was going to say I almost committed this sin. That was part of the rule. You had to be screen accurate with our cast.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
huge, huge, huge sin if you weren't allowed on stage if you
Yeah.
weren't screen accurate. And I know I sound like a wicked bitch that way, but yeah.
No. Here's the story. So when I first played Magenta, it was because I was working in costumes. I think I had been there for 2 weeks, maybe. And the Friday night Magenta was always late. I'm not going to name her name because I'm not looking to shame her, but she was always late. And so the time warp happened and she wasn't there. So they gave me the cast made outfit, which was like the little rayon thing with like the little white frill on the top. It wasn't like, it was like literally bought from like Party City. And I was up there in bare feet, no stockings, no doily on my head, no apron, just the black dress, doing the time warp, no makeup, doing the time warp because there was no time. Like they were like,
Right.
she's not here, get on the stage. I'm like, okay. And I did.
Right now, there's some Magenta somewhere just going, that's fucking terrible. How could they have her do that?
I was trying to save the day because they were literally going to have to do it without a Magenta. And of course, I get halfway through the time warp and there she is staring daggers at me. And she ended up doing the rest of the movie. But it was like, but you weren't here. Like she was constantly late. So I ended up getting her role later. But for my costumes, I went to like Garment District and I found a black dress that looked kind of like Magenta's. And I sewed the little white things and I sewed them to the dress. And my grandmother helped me make the apron because I couldn't do that myself. But yeah, I did not tell her what it was for. But she made my apron and my doily and the other stuff, like the nightgown, bra, underwear, that stuff. I found those things like at a store.
Pam, how did you get involved in the cast? I know you said how you first saw it, but how did you audition? Who did you go through? Like, give us your history of joining.
Good question.
So my cousin's best friend growing up, still her very, very good friend, Kim, was in the cast. She had the director at the time, Mimi, helping her make her costumes. And because I lived with Pam, she was going out, I think, to visit Kim we were in Auburn, Mass. I think she was going out to visit Kim for the day. And I worked as a waitress and ended up not being called in because I was working the summer deck and it was raining. So I went with Kim to Mimi's while Kim's costumes were getting made. And Mimi told me to come and join the cast. And so I joined as costumes originally at that time. And that's how I ended up.
Sounds like a lot of people get in through costumes. Tony, how did you become Meatloaf?
A lot of fried food. It's funny. I almost actually asked Kim to come on tonight too, which would have been interesting. Me and my friend Dana we both went one night on just like a last minute. What do you want to do tonight? I don't know. Hey, Rocky's playing late. Let's go. And we went, and they were saying, "Hey, we're hiring security." So we said, "All right, we can do security." He's like, "Let's do it, let's do it." He's like, "I've always wanted to join this cast." I'm like, "Why would you want to do this? It's like you have to come every weekend. It's like it's pain. So it's late. What are you doing? Like we got doing other things." He's like, "No, we got to do this." He talked me into it. I'm like, "All right, we'll do it." So we go after the show. And we talked to I think his name was Rob at the time. He was the only security person. So he's like, "Yeah, you guys are hired." I'm like, "Do I fill anything out?" He's like, "Nope, show up Friday." All right, what do we do? He's like, just show up." So we showed up, and he's like, "All right, you're gonna stand there, and you're gonna frisk people." I'm like, "Just, do you want to show me how to do it?" He's like, "You know, touch them. Do they have guns? Do they have knives? Do they have bottles? Do they have drugs? If they do, take it. We'll take care of it later." I'm like, "All right." And we did that. I did that for about a month, and in the middle of there, we were invited to the after parties, which is like, "Oh, there's after parties. Oh, okay." And so we went, and there was one night we went, and Dana and I were there, like, and it was funny because I was studying for finals. I was still in college at the time, and then I'll never forget it. Looked up the top of the stairs, and we saw two girls there, and we were like, "Oh, this is going to be bad." And then we started talking to them, and then just, "You should join our cast. It would be fun." And we just, then the females, they're pretty. And the girls who do Rocky are pretty.
I love
And
Tony. Tony's like, "I don't want to do this." Then he's like, "Ooh, parties, girls? This is more appealing. Let's join." A purist.
I became friendly with some of the cast, and it just went that way. It was fun, And so the person who I ended up hanging out with and talking to was Columbia. She's like, "Oh, you should try out and be my Eddie." I'm like, "I don't know if I'm good for that." And then she talked me into it, and it was fun. From that point on, hooked, had a blast, loved it, really did. Like, so that was my intro. As far as my costumes go, I lived in an apartment with the core, pretty much the core cast, and everybody helped everybody else. And I had no artistic skills at the time, so they're like, here, I painted my vest. My Pam, I think you helped with my rivets, maybe you or
Probably did.
Sarah or Sherry did my rivets, and just it was our my time there, my intro time there. There was a core group of people that were very, very close, and I was luckily very accepted into that right away, and it was really great. And everybody at that point, as far as I remember, kind of took care of everybody else. It was like Mimi was in charge. She was the overseeing everything, and she was good, and she did everything that needed to happen. I don't. My memory is faded. A lot of stuff I hear, secondary, third stories, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that." Like, oh, really? They didn't like you? They didn't like me? Really? Like, so it really just, a lot of it is glazed over. But back when I first joined, there was a Friday night cast and a Saturday night cast, and it was like, the aspiration was to be, you wanted to be on Saturday. That was the night. Saturday was always a bigger crowd. It was a rowdier crowd, and it was fun. So you aspired to just get better, be more screen accurate, hit the spots, hit the notes, make your costume as great as possible, and just be what you could. And it was fun. So I forget what the original point does, but that's my story.
So how does one lose their position at Rocky? You just grow out of it. You get too old. Somebody
Kinda
better
just,
comes
yeah,
along.
you move on. You
just
move on because you want to do something else. You rather be somewhere else. Or, like if you are a total screw up and just never show up, eventually you'll get booted.
Now, were there any like hanger-ons? They're like, 50, still trying to, and they're like, "Listen, bud, you're done. We've got this young, nice, pretty girl that wants to play Magenta now, and you're a hag."
Loyalty does go a long way, Rocky.
It does.
Loyalty and experience go a long way. There are people still doing it who still do it great. I won't say anything bad about them. I won't take anything away from them because they're doing what they need to do, and the crowd responds to it. I remember a time when there wasn't, "Shit, we can't fill this role." There's always someone who wanted to do it. There's always someone on, but what they've done now is you need to work a crew for at least, I think it's like a month or 2 months before you can even audition for a cast. Before it was just like, "Oh, you want to try Rocky? Try out. We have auditions on Thursday or Friday." It's like that's the way it kind of used to be.
So now you got to prospect like it's a motorcycle club. Like get coffee and fucking sweep the floor.
You have to do your first kill,
Nice. Okay. All right, Dylan, keep it moving along.
Brad and Jen are wildly uncomfortable and try to sneak out, but run into Dr. Frankenfurter in a cape and his amazing makeup. He treats them to a show while singing Sweet Transvestite to introduce himself. Interrupting his song, Brad asks him for help. Frank promises help, but it's really unclear just what kind of assistance he's offering. Frank gets back on the elevator, and Riff Raff and Magenta strip Brad and Janet down to their underwear. Brad and Janet are then taken upstairs in the elevator to the lab. This is 100% the best introduction of a character in cinema history, period. I don't care what anyone else says. This is the coolest thing. The first time I saw this, it blew my little freaking mind apart. The best thing I've ever seen. The best way you could. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it today and it felt like I was watching it for the first time. I mean, we meet Frank. It was better than I remembered it. Tim Curry is God in this role. He is fucking so committed to this. The song is great. The supporting cast is fucking amazing in this. They're all so committed. And again, in this scene, Columbia is fucking bringing it. She is fucking elevating this scene. I love it. I love it. Tony, what do you got?
He's got a crush on Little Nell.
A little bit. A little bit. I liked it.
She is pretty cool. Yeah, it's hard to deny that Tim Curry is just amazing in this role. And just after again, fucking decades at this point of just watching it and performing with it. And again, the only reason I bring it up is because it is, to my point here, is I was director for like a year or 2 years. I was a minuscule director in the cast of like many directors who've done a lot more than I would ever imagine. But in the year or two that I was director, you kind of had to make sure everyone was pulling off the lip movements and the facial expressions to really make sure you're the best cast on stage. Every movement, Columbia, you're right. Columbia in the background, her hip shakes, her facial expressions, Magenta looking bored, Riff looking thrown off, every aspect of it. No one's ever just standing on screen. Everyone's reacting. And the good thing is, if the cast is doing it right, everyone on fucking stage should be reacting. You're never going to find anyone just standing there on stage or in this movie. And that's what a true testament to a great shadow cast. And I think that all our casts have always done that.
I mean, there are no words. Tim Curry, Frankenfurter, there are no words. There's just never been anything like it. There's never going to be anything that's going to top that.
It's that good, yeah. And
He's
you
the
got to
fifth
play
member
him.
of Kiss. He's the fifth member of Kiss. It's fucking
yeah.
I remember the night that you got to play him. I never got to that point, but I remember when you played him. That was awesome.
It was scary, but it was awesome.
She played Frank one night.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Gender swap.
Gender swap.
Oh, that's so cool. Talk about it. I was actually saying to DeLink, so you played Janet through, which is a kind of involved role in the movie. But I was saying to Delin, like, wow, Gene, did he get paid for this role? And she's like, no, nobody got paid. It was all volunteer. And I'm like, but I can't imagine how much work must have gone into playing the character of Frank, because he's like, huge. So Pam, how did you pull it off? Did you have to study for it or?
I mean, I did study for it. Some of it was a little bit, it was easy in terms of like, remembering the stage blocking and what to do because you've watched it so much. And because I was playing Janet, I spent a lot of time watching Frank. Like I was on stage with him most of the time.
Right.
So I knew his role, but of course you're also trying to like be that big character. And I don't think I pulled it off quite as well as like the people who played Frank, but I had fun with it.
She was awesome.
The makeup department in this movie is the unsung hero because, we were talking about, like Tony was talking about, the different characters in the background doing what they're doing, right? So like in Clue, this was going on as well. I just didn't fucking care.
But you gotta keep hitting touching that fucking nerve, man. You just gotta keep poking the fucking
Get that kid off the escalator.
But in this movie, so between the set that they're all performing on, which is the castle, it's a character in itself. Every room is a character in itself. Everything about this is like just so stylistic, like I said. But then you can take, like, you're watching these scenes, you're looking at Frank, and then you're noticing, Columbia over to one side. Then you're noticing, and it's really just keeping me super, super drawn into the movie, and it's keeping the pacing moving so well.
Yeah, when you shadow cast, when you become a member of a cast, you watch the movie at home and you spend the entire movie watching your person. So you're never watching the action over here. You're watching that person and you're like, oh, she raises her eyebrow there. I know when he says this word, her eyebrow goes up. It's like, that's how like minutia we got with it. We got nuts. We get nuts.
Oh
But
God,
yeah, the gender swap. Tony, did you do a gender swap?
I was Pam's Columbia.
Oh,
That's awesome.
suddenly
The
I no
best part
longer
is
have the crush.
the person. Oh, dude, I am the ugliest fucking woman you ever want to see.
I can imagine.
I will be the first to. No, we actually did. There was. I'm going to get way off base, but it brings it back. Me, I'm going to name names here. Our friend Ron and our friend Steve. We decided one night on a whim, pre-show. We threw out pre-show and we did It's Raining Men as women. It looked like you remember the movie fucking Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? It was like, Blanche, what are you doing, Blanche? That was us on stage. We looked so fucking terrible. We really tried to like be like good looking, Tu Wong Fu like, and I'm like, we are fucking ugly as fuck. We got the three most odd looking men in the worst makeup, looking fucking awful. So yeah, but the fun part about this is that the person who played Magenta usually played Frank that night. And so he was a good 6 inches taller than Pam. I'm a good 4 inches taller than Pam. The thing is, in the scene, Frank is like the middle, and the
Yeah.
women are really
Yes.
small. So we realized that we were like inches. So we just, as the scene went on, her speech, we started to slowly like shrink down and shrink down and shrink down. And Pam started to notice and was trying not to laugh. And we're just like, so by the end of it, we're like by her boobs, just looking up at her, like longingly. So it's just the one, but because the one rule we had is you don't fuck around on stage. Like,
Oh, but we
serious, it's dumb,
did.
but
We did fuck around on stage.
and so we were our own worst enemies. Like, never make someone laugh on purpose. But if you could do it, fucking do it and make it good. It's like Saturday Night Live. Don't fucking do it. You're gonna get in trouble if you do it. But if you do it, good for you. You made it
I mean,
happen.
jumping ahead to that scene where your Magenta and Columbia have the masks on and Frank is doing the speech. You got to speak directly into Frank's ear. So I would say the most ridiculous shit because I've got a mask on and you can't tell what I'm saying. So I would say something awful every time trying to crack him up. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But yeah, we always fucked around on stage even though we weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
Tony. So Pam is Frank. It was like Spinal Tap. Like, we've got a 16-inch Stonehenge out there in danger of being trampled by a fucking dwarf.
No, but she you know, because it's funny. That's one of the tapes I have, and she killed it. I mean, I haven't watched it since like fucking decades, but it's like, but no, when it came to gender swap, it was like once a year. Everybody, you took it seriously. You tried to do the best you could with it, knowing that like shit. I'm Eddie. I'm on stage 5 minutes every week, and then I'm at the border drinking. So that was my role. I would show up, hang out, watch some scenes, play over on the side a little bit, do my shit, and then go drink. So it's like I have to now know Columbia. But the good thing was I've seen the movie so many times. But you try to take it as seriously as you can, try to do the best job you can. And yeah, speaking back to DeLynn, it's like it's funny because when we cast Frank, one of the biggest things we looked for when we do it, we basically here's a scene from the movie, go on the stage with our current cast. Your audition is do the scene with them as you think you should do it. You know, try to know the blocking. You should know the facial expressions. And then we always gave them sweet tea, sweet transvestite. So you had to do a scene and then you had to do the song. If they didn't do how about that? And he gives that weird lip thing. If they didn't do the weird lip thing, you were already out of the running. That's like, that was the biggest, like, fuck, didn't do the lip, didn't fuck that. He didn't do the lip. He's out.
So was this night something that they would fill the house for with a crowd?
Oh yeah.
Were people
for
disappointed that
gender
they had to
swap?
watch this version? I would be like, what the fuck? I came all the way down
No,
here.
because
and I'm watching
we
this?
still brought it. Like I did Brad one week. I think I was Riff Raff another time. I might have even played Eddie. I think the only thing I didn't play was Frank. I
From
did
an
Columbia for a
outside
while,
point
too.
of view, this is not a show I would be psyched
Well,
to show up for.
Des, the thing, and again, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys might remember better than I do because my shit memory. We had every week, you had the same crowd.
A lot
We
of
saw
people.
a lot of the same people. Like I would say 3/4 of the audience were the same people literally coming. That was their Saturday night things. By the time we were doing it, we were really down to Saturday nights. So it's like we saw the same people and they didn't care. They wanted to see what we were going to do. So again, it was all about the pre-shows. It was about the fun and just being part of it.
So you're making it almost sound like at that point, the crowd was almost part of the show like the cast was, and you would all do this thing together and then go out and party afterwards. So it was just a giant party every week for the same
Pretty
people.
much.
That's what it should be. That's what
awesome.
people go to Rocky for, is to be part of the experience. It's the same thing when you used to play on stage, Des. you had a better show when the audience was giving you the energy. We had a
course.
better show when the crowd was totally yelling things. If we had
Right.
a crowd that was dead, like if we had like a school there, because we used to actually have a school that would bus
Yes.
people in once a year. It was like, I forget what school it was. Do you guys remember, Pam?
I don't even remember that at all.
There was like one function group that would always bus like their kids in, and they wouldn't know anything, so they were all like, "Hey, we're at midnight in a movie. It was great," because they were
Nice.
younger. They were like seniors in like
Right.
high school. They would come. So I mean, if a crowd's not giving us the energy back, it's hard to like get as
Yeah.
wicked fun into it as we could. It's the same thing
Yeah.
with playing on stage.
Brad and Janet find themselves in Frank's lab where he waits in a surgical gown and pink kitchen gloves. The Transylvania conventionists watch the events from an above balcony. After a speech, Frank reanimates a dead body using dubious fluids and some unknown technology. Inside the bandages is a full-grown man with blonde hair, tan skin, blue eyes, and a muscular figure wearing gold briefs and gold boots. Frank has named him Rocky. The newly born experiment is experiencing confusion and sings Sword of Damocles before Frank soothes him and sings, "I Can Make You a Man." Just then, the freezer malfunctions and Eddie comes flying out of the freezer on his motorcycle, and we get treated to hot patootie before Frank kills Eddie with a pickaxe. Despite the interruption, Frank takes Rocky to his bedchamber in a wedding-style procession. The criminologist comes on again and mentions that Brad and Janet are in trouble now that they're being led away to separate rooms for the night. Meatloaf as Eddie is just it's inspired casting. It's inspired casting because it's so good. It's so clever. He wasn't like he was perfect for it, and he didn't do the stage show. I don't think he did. I think
No,
he
he
was.
did.
Oh,
He
did he
did
do it?
because
Okay,
him and Tim Curry, if I remember right, they were doing hair together at one point, and Tim
that's
Curry suggested
right.
it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, inspired casting. He's so perfect for this, and Tony, you can say more about it because this is your time to shine. But yeah, I love this
He,
part of this movie.
he's the only character that takes any attention away from Frank. Anytime Frank's on screen, he's the center.
Yep.
Eddie's the only person that comes out and upstages him. And the only way to get rid of him is to fucking kill him. That's the way I've always looked at it. Otherwise, he would have taken the whole movie away.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, the whole creation of Rocky, it's so cheesy. It's so over the top. And again, I love it just because it is what it is. And the whole, I have a personal love for Sword of Damocles because I usually went over the side of the stage and did the little dance with the other crew, with the props
Yep.
guys, because
Yep.
it's a fun song, it's a bouncy song, and it's one of those ones that it's a lot of fun. And just being Eddie is just the blast. It's literally it's funny because I have my random Halloween mixes going on this month, and I have Rocky songs mixed into it, and Sword of Damocles is one that's on there, and it's so funny because right towards the shalala, I get the nervous pee feeling. Yeah, right before you have to go on stage, and it's like I'm driving in my car. I'm like, oh my god, I got the nervous pee. It's like it's like a Pavlov response because that's usually that's my moment to get in
Yep.
crowd under the stage. I gotta get in my corner, I gotta get my helmet on, I gotta get my sunglasses on, and that's my moment to get ready to go, get my
Yep.
nervous pee. So
Do you remember in Theater 3, like coming out from underneath that curtain and how many times we all banged our heads on
oh,
there was a
that we had to
curtain.
get that pool noodle.
Yeah, we had to put like a piece of like foam up there because there was a piece of wood and we all would come out from under that curtain to just appear on the other side of the stage. And the amount of times we all banged our heads on that thing, they had to protect us because we were all walking around half concussed.
See, I liked it better than Theater 1 because Theater 1 you had to jump out of the pit.
Yeah.
A lot of times we had to come out of the pit to get, and the pit's a good, it's 4 feet and then up over a railing. And usually
Yeah.
I had to do it in darkness because they're spotting the other side of the stage. And I had to get up
Mhm.
quietly. So to get my fat ass up a thing, up over the railing, don't knock over the elevator on the props guys. Fuck, you hit the weights. What the fuck is wrong with you? And it's just like, because their props are always kept over the side of the stage and I have to come from that area. So I legitimately would always fuck something up getting to
Yeah.
where I need to be. So I mean, it's all this stupidity. It's just so much fun to remember all of it.
Well, something that I just thought was funny is that I think for the longest time, I assumed that Meatloaf got that role because he was Meatloaf, like big, huge rock star Meatloaf. And I'm not familiar with all of his work, like his younger years. but I realized that Bat Out of Hell didn't come out until years after this movie. And I think
Yeah.
I grew up not realizing that. And it's just kind of funny to think about the role he had after that, you know?
Right.
It's funny you say that because when we were watching the movie and Meatloaf starts singing his part, I was saying, man, it feels like Meatloaf wrote the music for this because I mean, that song in particular, I mean, musically, it fucking sounds like Meatloaf. I mean, go put on Bat Out of Hell. Bat Out of Hell could have been the soundtrack for this movie and it would have
Yeah.
been fine. It would have worked.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So this scene, which I'm going to call the underwear scene, this is where the movie took this like stylistic turn for me. And it really felt like A Clockwork Orange. It just did. And I'll give you the scene in A Clockwork Orange that this really felt like. It's the milk bar scene when they're sitting there drinking the milk after their night of rowdiness. And we get this music, and the little narration. And we get that same score of music in this. And we've got the white porcelain statues. And we've got this really ultra weird, like 70s colored room. It felt like A Clockwork Orange, and I love it. It gave me the feels big time. Of course, the inspector, we got to talk about it. It's so good having this guy narrate it. He's always got this book opened next to him. At this point, it's like fantasy comics or something is open. And then later we're going to get The Last Supper. And like he keeps turning the pages, and the pages are like coinciding with what's going on in the movie. During the creation of Rocky number, Tim Curry is fucking unhinged. As he's coming down the stairs, he is literally throwing himself off the walls of the stairwell.
Yes, he is.
It's amazing. I can't take my eyes off it. And again, the fucking castle. This castle is its own character. The imagination that went into these different sets and some of these different props. I don't want to talk about one yet, but there's a prop they use a few times that I really love the vision that he had of turning this object into what he turned it into. It's amazing. And to see a young Meatloaf fucking throwing down like this, I was all over it. And this was about the time in the movie when I looked at the timer, which I'll do from time to time. Usually if I'm watching a movie that I'm not enjoying, like, I don't know, Clue or something, and it feels like it's really dragging on, I'll look at the timer and say, it's fucking another hour to go. But not here. I know. But not here. Not here. I checked it, and I was actually checking it because it felt like the movie was going briskly, and I was surprised to see that it was more than half over. So kudos for the pacing of this movie.
So the castle was very cold and it was rainy and it dripped a lot of water, and you can see the actor's breath in a lot of the scenes because it was that cold. I can only imagine running around in my underwear in that cold castle. They had a warm room that was like a kind of closed off room that had heaters in it, and it caught on fire.
Nice.
So they couldn't use the warm room anymore, and everyone just had to be cold. And Susan Sarandon ended up getting really bad pneumonia, and the pool scene, she has pneumonia in it. And she she just was like, I'm going to get this done. And she did. But like Richard is quoted as saying, like, she probably should have been under a doctor's care. She probably shouldn't have been in a pool.
Yeah, you can actually see their breath in the lobby of the entranceway. You can see their breath. So yeah, interesting.
Pam, have you ever met Susan Sarandon? Like Delinda, have you ever met Patricia Quinn?
Never.
Tony, I'm guessing you have.
Oh, I've met Meatloaf. That was why I was all excited, because he's one of the handful of people who actually liked and embraced his role in Rocky. You know, Tim Curry, I guess, in the last few years has really come around to it and appreciate it. But, you know, Barry Bostwick is a huge fan. Again, in recent years, but back when they were doing the Fox one, they did a Fox special on it. And I guess they tried to get everybody. Everyone was like, maybe we'll see, you know. But it's like Meatloaf all through his career has always really appreciated Rocky R. And I was lucky enough to meet him, like, hey, I play it, and I had my vest with him. He actually signed it. And
nice.
like, you know, so it's like, that's why I never want to like have to wear it again. So it's like, I just wasn't sure if you've ever met Patricia Quinn, because she has done stuff with the cast in the last decade.
Yeah, so. No, I know she's been in town, and I know that there's there was a time when her and little Nell were here, but I've never met her, unfortunately. And I love her to death. I literally watched Lords of Salem just to see her. I didn't even enjoy the movie. I just wanted to see Patricia Quinn, so I watched it for her.
Yeah, this is the character that put Tim Curry on the map. I mean, him not embracing this character would be like Mark Hamill talking about his days on the set of Corvette Summer, you know?
Oh, Corvette Summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we get the scar. That's how we get the scar. I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right.
Sorry.
While separated, Frankenfurter comes into Janet's bedroom dressed as Brad and seduces Janet. Then he goes to Brad's room dressed as Janet and seduces him. Afterwards, an upset Janet goes to look for Brad. Meanwhile, Riff Raff scares Rocky, who escapes from the bedchamber and is running loose outside, chased by dogs. While wandering the castle, Janet encounters Rocky hiding in his tank at the lab. Seeing that he's injured, she tears her slip to bandage his wounds, and she realizes that she's into him, because why not? The two of them get it on after she sings Touch Me. And meanwhile, Columbia and Magenta are watching in secret from a closed-circuit TV, laughing and making fun of the events unfolding before them. Rocky and Janet hide as Frank, Brad, and Riff Raff come to the lab. Looking for Rocky, they realize that Dr. Everett Scott, a middle-aged man in a wheelchair, is outside the castle. Brad recognizes his old teacher, but Frank is angry that the two know one another, recognizing Dr. Scott as a federal agent investigating UFOs. Suspecting Brad and Janet are actually spies. Brad denies this, of course. Frank uses a giant magnet to drag Scott up to his lab, where they discover he's not there because of UFOs. He's there looking for his nephew, Eddie. At this reveal, Janet gasps in her hiding place, and now everyone sees Janet and Rocky together. Magenta appears and announces that dinner is ready. In my most amazing moment of the entire thing, I would love to do that, to go out there with a gong and bang that gong. I don't know why. It was just so much fun, because you'd show up in the middle of the, in the middle of the audience. You'd go up into the middle of the audience and bang that gong and scare the living daylights out of everyone standing around you. I loved it.
Dude, this scene with Janet. So we're talking about stylistic scenes in this movie and the way they're setting these moves. When they take her to her hotel room and the whole scene is shot in red, it's really good. Again, it's so 70s. I love it. I had just taken an edible. It was working.
Same
for me.
set, different lighting.
Yeah, but it's so good. It's so good. But it's so good. We see Riff Raff Magenta watching on this TV. This is what I wanted to talk about. This Art Deco style TV in red. It's so good. And then these little close-up clips we get of just the TV squiggly going back. This is like, you could watch this on mescaline. It would be so good. It would almost be worth doing it again. I also said, for a musical, the pacing's so good in this movie. I never was bored, and I was really afraid that was going to happen. So this is probably my favorite part of the movie. These scenes with Frank seducing Janet and Brad, this is extremely erotic. This taps into the taboo of like cheating on your spouse, or, trying something you wouldn't normally try after a few too many drinks. It's like, you can feel the want. You can feel the lust that you seriously though, because Frankenfurter, he represents like the naughty, right? But he's this amazing character, and they're both seduced by him. Brad more so than Janet, but I mean, after this scene, fucking Brad is never the same. Let's be honest, right? He becomes fucking Frank's blue robe bitch after this. That's just the way it is.
Tell us about it, Janet.
Yeah, and then Riff Raff alludes they might be aliens, and I went, oh, I completely forgot about this part of the movie, and I was like, they're fucking aliens. And Dylan's like, yeah, the fucking aliens from the planet, fucking transsexual mania, dude. I'm fucking loving this movie. Tony, talk about
the
it.
thing that I'm laughing about is I wish that we did a visual podcast, because your face talking about Brad and Frank was so awesomely excited. Like, your eyebrows are going up and down. And if I could see drool through the high res, I would have seen it, because you're so excited. Like, I wish the listeners could see. Like, listen, this is where it's time for the weird boner part of the podcast.
Dude, thank you. I was waiting for the weird boner, one, and two, come on, you can feel the fucking passion and the excitement that Brad has for the Frank.
Out of my mother's grow.
Yeah,
it's there.
Oh God, Frank dives his head into Brad's ass, and fucking Brad's feet go up in the air, and I went, what am I watching? It was amazing.
The rimming part of the fucking podcast. Great. All right. Awesome. Pam, this is the part of the show everyone loves to watch for Toucha. So tell us about times during Touch It that just either were really fun or just went completely off the rails, and you're like, I really need to get off this fucking stage right now.
I mean, yeah, it's an audience of people watching me get groped and asking to please be groped.
Nice.
So,
yeah, tell us more.
I mean, we're actors, we're acting, and most of us knew each other pretty well. And there would be different people. Some people you were really comfortable with, some people maybe not so much, but you were just professional. There was someone, and I'm not going to name names, but there was definitely somebody, and I don't remember what the problem was, but I feel like he just didn't do what he was supposed to do. He liked to do whatever he wanted to do in that scene. And so one Friday night, so right before it, Janet looks to the left, looks to the right, and they're like, do you want to get with Rocky or the audience? And she's looking back and forth, and I voted for the audience, and Rocky that I was a lot more comfortable with was actually out there waiting, and then I did the scene from the audience.
Oh shit!
Nice.
The other dude's on stage like, what the fuck?
And he had a temper. So the one in the audience is Dave. I can name him because he's not the one that we have to protect here. But
yeah.
So you're telling me that you didn't want to do a romantic scene with the sexiest man in Boston? Because I'm all over that scene. I'm fine with that.
We're talking about the tank scene. We're talking about the tank scene with Rocky.
Touch.
I thought we were talking about Frankenfooter and Janet in bed.
No.
Oh. Okay, so how about that scene? How did those go for you?
I mean, they went fine. Those things were so what's actually supposed to be going on. I mean, it's a shadow. Like we literally nothing is happening in there that's even close to erotic.
Yeah, didn't we have a screen that had a curtain, like it was like a shower curtain that hung in front, and it was backlit, so you didn't really see anything.
That was my next question. Who played Brad?
Our friend Steve.
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 So Steve, okay, so you guys have already told us there was a screen, so Steve didn't have to get romantic with Frankenfooter. No. Okay.
He probably would have anyways.
I was going to say he probably would have had no problem.
Steve was one of the most fun people on that cast. Steve was up for anything. Steve, and not in a bad way, in like the best way.
No, in a fun way.
I really, he's one of the handful of people that I think everyone in every cast loved. And I'm glad to be able to say that. And hopefully he'll listen and hear this. But he was definitely loved by everybody and had the most fun. He gave it his all every night, and he was awesome. Still a great guy.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, the sexiest man in Boston, of course, is Gene Dante. Everybody knows that. You can check out his music. What is the name of the band? Gene Dante and the
Future Starlets.
And the Future Starlets. Go check that out. You can listen to the music on YouTube. Really, really good. Has a huge David Bowie vibe to it. Super well produced. The guy's a rock star. Go check that out. So there you go. My shout out to Gene Dante.
Yeah. An uncomfortable dinner culminates in everyone realizing the roast they were eating is Eddie. Dr. Scott sings Eddie's Teddy, and Frank reveals that what remains of Eddie's corpse is under the tablecloth. Janet runs to Rocky instead of Brad, and Frank, incensed, chases her after giving her a slap. He sings Planet Schmanet Janet at her, and they end up in the lab where Frank turns Janet, Brad, Rocky, Scott, Dr. Scott, and Columbia into statues and announces it's time for the floor show.
All this and a floor show?
The statues are now on stage, all dressed in corsets and sequins. They sing Rose Tint My World before Frank appears and sings Don't Dream It, Be It. He jumps into a pool where an orgy ensues until Frank bursts from the pool and sings Wild and Untamed Thing, joined by the others. The song is interrupted by Riff Raff and Magenta, who announce that Frank's been found guilty of being too extreme, and Riff Raff is now in charge, and he's returning them to their homeworld of Transylvania in the galaxy of transsexual immediately. Frank brings it to song about how happy he is to go home, but Riff Raff explains that only he and Magenta are going home. Frankenfurter is to be killed. Riff Raff proceeds to shoot Columbia, Frank, and Rocky with his antimatter laser before telling Dr. Scott, Brad, and Janet that they should leave now. Magenta and Riff Raff celebrate going home just as the castle lifts up from the ground and flies away. Our criminologist comes back one last time to close the book on the story. And that is the end. The floor show is fucking amazing. It's the cornerstone of the entire movie after the time warp, as far as I'm concerned. But fun little fact is no one on the cast besides Meatloaf, Tim Curry, and Richard O'Brien knew that Eddie body was under the tablecloth. So the looks of horror on most of their faces is real. They didn't realize it was there until he pulled that curtain off. So I thought that was kind of cool that they kind of kept that under wraps.
Yeah, the horror
I
should
see
have
what you
been
mean.
how bad the puppet looked, but that's okay. So I've got some thoughts about all this. I thought this is interesting. So I noticed the book on the inspector's table here is open to the picture of the Last Supper, right? And then we're going to get Eddie's Last Supper, of course. And this got me thinking that Janet and Brad would represent Adam and Eve. Frank was the snake and the apple for Brad, and Rocky was the apple for Janet. And I was feeling this here. I thought that this was, I think it's there. When
There's
Frank,
that face again.
so I said,
You guys are missing out on this face.
I said, you go in, I go, is that a turkey with no legs? She goes, no, that's fucking Eddie, right? But when Frank is cutting meatloaf with the electric knife, it was like a light bulb went off my head. I said, what the fuck ever happened to the electric fucking knife? That is such a great invention. You don't see it anymore. That thing used to be on every fucking Thanksgiving table that I was never at because when I grew up, there was no food. But we'll go into that
therapy
another time.
1:14, 1 hour and 14 minutes therapy. I win the pool.
Yeah. So the dinner party, it's great. Broke the tablecloth pull. I thought it was fun. I laughed out loud. I'm almost glad they didn't just dress up Meatloaf and they gave us this whacked out looking dummy because like if I was like tripping on acid, I would have been fucking pissing my pants laughing. And then I made another observation that Delynn kind of disagreed with, but said maybe. So I felt like the revelation was that all of the white porcelain statues were Frank's past victims. Right?
Like in the lab, there's all those white statues.
And she said,
but I said they're really big.
And then I said,
well, maybe they're from another planet
because they're aliens
really
and they're in a spaceship. So perhaps they've frozen larger people on different planets. I don't know, but that's the way I took it. I mean, he made a point of showing him turning these people to statues, and a lot of them were naked. And a lot of these statues were nude. So I'm like, okay.
Well hung speakers.
The act in the pool. The act in the pool was so good because we're getting this over animated Tim Curry. He's soaked. He already looked amazing. He looks even better wet. It was
That's what she said.
And then finally, Frank's musical number with Tim Curry's bloodshot eyes. Oh, this is the best he looks in the movie. I fucking live it. And then we find out
they actually had problems with this because the makeup was so well done. When they wet his face, it didn't run.
Yeah.
So they had to like force the makeup to run and look like that.
Oh, it looked fucking, it
Yeah.
looks so good. But we find out that the whole sequence is in his imagination. I mean, this is like movies like The Joker are pulling from this. They have to be because that's what is popping into my mind, Then we get Magenta as the Bride of Frankenstein. We get Riff Raff as Flash Gordon. We get Rocky climbing the tower like King Kong. I'm sitting here just like, oh, I'm loving all of this. And then Riff Raff takes out his trident dagger and shoots Ace Frehley lightning bolts at fucking Rocky. Dude, I was all in for this. This ending was fucking crazy and I loved it. It was the perfect end to this fucking ride. And honestly, I felt like this movie was like 45 minutes long. It was so quick for me. It was started and over. Tony, what'd you think?
Oh my God, so much. We went that whole last half is so good. I love Floor Show. I'm not part of it, but man, I was always on the side of the stage watching because I just love Floor Show. Because again, everybody has their moment to shine. Everybody is on. Like everybody's part has something specific that I just love about it. Whether it's like, putting the feather boa between the legs for Rocky, or it's the head shake for Brad. Everybody's got something. I mean, Janet's always just fucking hot because Susan Sarandon in makeup and big hair. Come on, where do you go wrong with that? But I mean, it's just fun. And going back to Steve always was great to watch in Floor Show. The problem was Steve. And again, this is nothing I haven't said to Steve over the years. Steve was never really great about his costumes. So Steve didn't replace his underwear a lot. So his underwear got a little baggy. There's one time, hey, we're bringing back, you said we're going to bring some memories. He's doing the part where he puts his leg up in the air and his nuts fell out. Someone snapped a picture right at that point and handed him the picture at a party afterwards. He framed it and put it behind his bar. It's literally him in Floor Show drag with his balls hanging out. like
Mhm.
all the way out. Like this, like the nuts hang off the back of trucks. That's what was hanging out of his underwear. Like these are big
Oh,
fucking, big old hangy balls. But
that's
that's how
fucking
awesome Steve was.
great.
He's like, yes, those are my balls.
Yeah,
So
true story. When I did Brad, I had to wear his costumes because I needed costumes, and I took them home and washed them before I was gonna wear them because he had never washed them.
Good move. Good move.
um, to your point on the makeup for Frank, the one thing I wanted to say before when we were all talking about it back a while ago is that it's funny because everyone had their caboodle. You needed a caboodle. If you were had makeup, the two things you needed was a caboodle and fucking red glitter to put on your lips
Mm-hmm.
because that's what
Mm-hmm.
made your lips shine on stage. All the stupid tricks that I learned from my years of Rocky of how to apply makeup, I didn't know how to fucking put shit on before that. Now I can at least do my eyes, but just anyone who was Frank, watching them do the Frank makeup always just like was awe inspiring because it wasn't a quick application. You did the shading, cheeks, the nose, the eyes are always awesome. So you already mentioned Gene, Bianca, Stacy, all the Franks that we ever had. I'm leaving a bunch out because we had so many. They were always great. But the makeup is such a huge part of the shadow cast because you have to be accurate, and they did such a great job in the movie. Columbia's big old eyebrows. You got Janet's. We didn't always do floor show makeup. The red circle around. You tried, but there was only so much you could do between um, the last scene and the floor show scene.
Yeah, it was quick. It was a
Um,
quick change.
but the shadow cast always like on fucking par with that fucking makeup. So always to give the cast credit. The other thing I wanted to touch on before we got too far away from it, because it did come up, is that it's funny. Every friendship, relationship I've always been, it's like, oh, I heard Rocky's just one big fucking orgy. No, we all, you have to, we're less than a community theater. We're not even a community theater. We're volunteers who literally
Mm-hmm.
changed in either one big area in the back of the theater or in like a room down in the basement. Everybody saw everybody else naked. It was never sexual. It was never oogling. It was just you had to do it to hurry up and get changed. Janet had like 2 seconds in some scenes. Frank literally would change behind the movie theater, behind the screen in some things to add things on and off. But it's just everyone looks like, oh, it's just dirty. It's just dirty. It's not. It's a very professional, oiled machine. I mean, it's fun. We goof around. We have a great time. But once the lips go on the screen, everybody's on. Props are where they need to be. Costumes got the shit laid out like a fucking rigid, like right down the table. This is scene one, this is scene two, bedroom scene this. It's really, really good. And I guess I'm kind of like going back and giving all the props people always the credit. Give the costume, give the lighting that always has to be
Lights.
on. Lights
Yep.
are huge. Like the show wouldn't go on if it wasn't for fucking lights. I'm just doing
Yep.
this part. I'm giving everyone credit they deserve because the people that I worked with literally for over 10 years, all of them busted their ass.
Yeah, and the thing is that it was family too. It was like even if you had say you had a disagreement with somebody in the cast or in props or in lights or whatever, if somebody was fucking with any of us, the whole place would empty out to take care of our people. Like it was our family. You might have disagreements in amongst ourselves, but it was it's like a brotherhood that just never goes away. Like my best friends of my life, I met at Rocky, and they're still my best friends to
I was
this
going to
day.
say, I mean, it's a testament, the three of us that are sitting here, like we did this show in the 90s. We still are here. I mean,
We're
and
still
that's
friends.
the case of all of my best friends I met at that show.
Oh,
All
without
of
a
them.
doubt.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm going to
And
go
to
on
touch on
believing
it-
it was an orgy. You've ruined it for me, Tony.
Sorry. I'm just trying to clear myself going forward of anyone who listens to this. Like,
Gotcha.
oh, so you fucked everyone? No, I didn't.
Nice.
No, I didn't.
Oh, God.
All right,
Oh,
I got totally
Lord.
away from the point, but yeah, just the end of the movie is just it's so fun, and watching Riff kick the door in with Magenta behind him, looking so out there with the gold and just it's such a great scene, and yeah, Frank and Fredo, everyone because those two come in the back of the theater and we spot them,
Mhm.
so the whole audience has to go, what's everybody looking at? Holy shit, they're there. That's the fun part I feel we always did for the audience is like we were always in the middle of them if we could be. My motorcycle ride, when Eddie rides around things, I would go up the aisle, around the back, through the lobby, down the front. During damaged planet, blah, 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 blah. Janet and Frank used to crawl over audience members to
Yeah.
get them. They be Janet. Oh no, it was sort of Damocles. Rocky would literally go and sing to the audience members in the aisle. So it's
Yeah.
like you want to be included, and it's part of the whole theater experience. The end of the movie, everybody loves it. How do you not love Tim Curry in that scene? And again, every Frank that I've been lucky enough to work with nails that scene to the point where like the crowd ends up just clapping along with it because you feel like you should. It's
Yeah.
funny that you don't need to, but it's like, oh yeah, I got it. Good job.
Yeah, and to your point, during that scene with him singing, he walks down the middle of the aisle just like Frank does on the screen, and he's in the middle holding up and the light is on him from the behind. It just you feel like you're in the movie. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you guys think of my my Adam and Eve thought? Pam?
Are we going back to that?
Yes.
Well, that was actually a point ahead because it's funny because the criminologist actually says they both tasted forbidden fruit.
Yes.
Which was, and it's
And the
always the
book.
audience crowd is Frank's gum. It's like, yeah, they both take the fast time. Head sledgehammer of plot. We got it. But yeah, no, you're right. It is very much Adam and Eve and the temptation. Frank is obviously they were thrown out of the Garden of Eden and this is their purgatory.
Yeah.
So Pam, I got a question for you. What do you think about them killing Frank at the end? Because for
I
me,
don't like it.
you don't. Okay.
No, I mean, it is what it is, but yeah, that's kind of sad. It's
See,
not.
for me, I loved it because it really just kind of cemented how much Frank meant to me as a character and for this movie. Like he was by far heads above everybody else in cool, right? Like there can never be another Frankfurter. So when they kill a character off like this, it's heavy and it makes me like that final scene where he has this melancholy music and he's sitting there and you're just like, oh man, like on top of the world 1 minute and then mutiny and fucking they've murdered their leader. And it's like, it's this, I mean, for a movie like this to have an ending like that, I thought it was brilliant. I felt the weight of it. I felt the weight of the loss of Frankfurter. And, the universe would never be as good again because he's no longer in it. That's how I felt about the end. So I like the choice.
I like the choice for the story, but I don't like the choice for me because he's my favorite. So I know.
All right, so that's it. We have broken down Rocky Horror Picture Show for you. Got a little inside info, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let's take it over to the recasting couch, and then we'll give you some alternate endings, and we will score this. I've got some absolutely amazing recasts. I've actually got 2. So for Brad, I would replace him with Jim Carrey, and I'll tell you what, this guy looked like Jim Carrey. This guy had the same facial mannerisms of Jim Carrey. There were moments where I thought I was actually looking at Jim Carrey. So that would be my replacement for Brad. And I would replace Tim Curry with one Dennis Rodman. I know it sounds weird, but hear me out. Okay. Dennis Rodman.
He's smoking crack.
The fucking gummies kicked in hard tonight. Wow.
Dennis Rodman. I mean, I could have gone RuPaul, but that's obvious. Dennis Rodman. I can imagine him molesting Janet.
That's a crime in most anyway.
It is a crime.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a crime. I recast Barry Bostwick, who I adore, and I think he's a lovely human being, but I recast him with John Ritter because I just figured,
okay,
yeah,
sure.
like he just kind of has that vibe, right?
For Brad?
Yeah.
I like that.
He had a beige windbreaker back in the day. He did.
I like it. John Ritter would have been great in that role.
And I think he would have played really well off of Susan Sarandon too. So
I agree. Well, you could have put Janet in there as Janet for Three's Company.
Oh no.
Chose to wit.
Chose to wit.
Right.
Exactly. Tony, go ahead.
I also recast Brad because anyone else you just can't cast anyone else. Christopher Reeve because he's just come on, Super Brad. It would have been better if Super Asshole was Superman. So
Super Asshole.
Same look, same innocent. I don't like when he's Clark Kent. Perfect Brad.
Remember when Clark lost his powers when he got his ass kicked in the diner?
Oh yeah, Superman too. Yeah.
That's Brad.
Total
That's
Brad.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right, Pam. Here it is.
So obviously you can't recast Frank, but for my own personal selfish reasons, maybe even just for Sweet Tea, I would love to see Tom Holland do it.
Yes.
Oh,
After the whole
After the
after
singing
the
in the
lip
rain
sync.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, please.
That'd be fun.
As if we'd end the movie like that. Yeah. Let's do the Scooby-Doo ending. Good call.
Okay, here we go. Alternate ending time. So I will get us started. Frankenfooter is brought back to life by Rocky, who survives the trident shot from Riff Raff. Frank builds Hill House on the empty lot where the castle once stood and changes its name to Wadsworth, posing as a butler to lure in fresh group of unsuspecting new victims. Refer to Clue for the rest of my alternate ending.
That's it. We lost Tony. He's gone.
He's gone.
He left.
He ripped off his earbuds and stormed Heather up. It's the best alternate ending ever.
Oh my God. You're such an asshole.
I know. So, Lynn, what do you got?
All right. When Brad and Janet and Dr. Scott eventually leave the wreckage of the castle, the pastor from the church arrives with the deacon and his wife and the spinster in tow. They begin to clean up and rebuild when the pastor finds Frank's pearl necklace and he puts it on. His eyes shine and he turns to the camera and grins, a very Frank-like grin.
I like it.
That's good. I like that.
I
one.
like it.
I like that.
I like it. That's very good. Very good. Tony, what do you got?
Well, after the whole spinning globe, it cuts to black, and then all of a sudden it flashes, and it's black and white. And Janet's in bed, and she looks over, and there's the Reverend, the spinster, the farmhand, and her boyfriend Brad, all in black and white. Because I had that plan before you fucking brought that up. So yeah, it goes back to the black and white, and it was, and you were there too, and you were there.
I love it.
Yep.
Yeah,
I love it.
Oh God. And you molested Brad. Okay. Pam, you got an alternate ending here?
I don't exactly have an alternate ending, but I do have a shout out to my cousin who, when she was a teenager, wrote a sequel to this movie.
Ooh.
Wherein a character by the name of Dr. Felicia Salami brings Frank back.
I love it.
Felicia Salami.
And I don't know the plot. I don't remember the plot, but I do remember the name of the character.
Sounds like a character from an Austin Powers movie.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's like the perfect drag queen name. I want it.
Right? Oh, shit.
Well, how
Tony,
did we not mention that there is actually a sequel, Shock Treatment?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, is there?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
No Frank.
It's nothing really
Well,
like this, though.
yeah.
I mean, it is, but it isn't.
It's pretty much a sequel in name and thought only, really. Sorry, you're going to say.
I was going to say, can you believe our most listened to podcast of all times is fucking Brain Scan?
No, I still can't. 'Cause that's
by
just me.
by
It's
like
so
by a
God
mile.
fucking awful.
Yeah, by
You
a
pick
mile.
on Clue, but yeah, you loved Brain Scan. So I just no, I can't.
Yeah,
I
that's the
refuse
one.
to believe it. But I'm happy that people like it. I'm glad that we entertain people enough.
Yeah.
So before we go, we got 3 old cast members here. I don't want to waste this time. I feel like we haven't gotten enough stuff on there. Just if I'm wrong, if you guys want to bail, feel free. My question: favorite pre-show and favorite pre-show of all time.
My favorite pre-show is Reproduction, of course.
Oh, that was a good one.
Reproduction was so good, but of course, I think like that's probably the favorite one I was in. But probably the favorite one in general was anytime that they did the Village People. You know, Steve and his crew. Anytime that they did, like, what did they do? They did YMCA and they did in the Navy and
Macho Man.
So ridiculous. And yeah, Macho. It was great. It was fantastic. Simple, but so effective.
Pam, same question.
I mean, I haven't thought about every pre-show in so long. So off the top of my head, favorite that I was in, probably Nurse Rosetta by Alice Cooper. And then I don't remember what my favorite pre-show was. I mean, I loved Reproduction, obviously, but I think there was some really, really big, flashy ones that came that were like The Perfect Drug, things like that. Probably are some of the toppers.
Yeah, there was also I Feel Pretty, which was
that was fun too,
Magenta and her entourage, which should be my favorite because it starred me as Magenta, so I loved it. But as much as I loved it, I don't know. I love Grease 2 so much that it's like it's a hard sell.
Tony, how about you? Which one was yours?
I mean, it's hard pressed not to say The Crow was one of my favorites that I
Right.
did. But I gotta say, Dentist is always my personal. I love doing Dentist.
Right.
I had a
Dentist.
blast
It
doing
sounds like
Dentist.
everybody loved Dentist.
It was
Um,
good.
I
was
think,
good.
but outside, this is going to be. We did a convention one that was all pop culture. I loved that. Could be my possible all-time favorite. But ones that were at the show, the cast years after us, they did a video one for Pink's Raise Your Glass, and it was like they filmed it coming out of Boston Common and they going into the theater, and then they worked it into the theater. I think that possibly might be like the coolest thing I saw. The
Yeah, it was
cast put
really
together.
cool.
That was awesome.
Now, I did
Really
hear
well
something
done.
about there were some cast members at one time actually brought a marching band into the fucking theater. I don't know.
That's
I won't
awesome.
say what that was or who did it, but it was pretty fucking awesome. And they came into Tusk, and then they did the time warp, had the band do the time warp, but
Love it.
whatever.
I love it.
So I thought that was cool.
Those are the awesome moments when like just something so epic happens that it just you remember it forever.
It was the silly things that didn't go as part of the show that we kind of like. The cast liked to do like current event stuff and stupid things like that. Like again, I can only speak for myself because I don't have their memories in there. But it's like the one night, the night after Tanya Harding thing happened
Oh
with
yeah.
Nancy Kerrigan, I showed
was
up in
me.
rollerblades. Yeah, you played.
I did Tanya Harding, and I remember
Harding.
I took the cushions off your couch and stuffed them down the back of my pants to give me a fat ass.
Yes.
You remember that?
And with your
And I had a crowbar. And a
And I
crowbar.
came out
Yeah.
in drag as Nancy Kerrigan on my rollerblades, and she bashed my knee in during monologue, and I just screamed why. And so
Yep.
again, the small things that happened, like just that we didn't plan on, like for whatever reason, when Natural Born Killers came out, everyone loved it, so we kind of tried to work Mickey and Mallory in as much as we could. So we always showed up as them once in a while, and the one that I had a lot of help with Gary. Gary was like he was one of our riffs, but he was also he helped the projectionist. He was like a tech guy for the show. He knew how to do everything. So the weekend after The Sopranos gave us their shitty fucking terrible ending of cutting to black and pissed everybody off and went to Journey, right as they're about to shoot Frank, him and I worked out. We got into the projection booth. We killed the power of the projector. We went black with the theater. Everybody thought we lost power, and we started playing Journey's.
Oh,
And the best thing is everybody fucking got it. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's the fucking." So if we let the song play, the whole cast came out and started singing it. The audience sang the entire song, and as soon as it was over, we hit the power, went back to the Frank scene, and the show just resumed. So it's
that's
like
great.
those are the things
Love
that
it.
we like had fun with. So they're great memories. The things that like I stupidly hold on to even into my fucking 50s. But it's like Pam and Dylan, they weren't wrong. Like we were a family at that time. Family of fucking. We always called it the Island of Misfit Toys because you went there to find your people, and people still do.
Mhm.
I have a friend who I went to high school with. Her daughter just joined the guy. Like she emailed me like a year ago. She's like, "Hey, you used to do Rocky Horror. Are they still doing it?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're let them know where." She's like, "Do you know where the cast is?" And I gave them the email. She just did her first Magenta show 3 weeks ago.
Aw,
So it's like
that's awesome.
I love that kind of stuff is still kind of going on. So I'm glad kids still have a place to go when they feel like they have no one else to go. And I know I'm sounding way too self-important with this, but it really was that for so many fucking people. Not with our cast, but across the fucking world. It's like when
Yeah.
we used to go to conventions in other cities, all these people were the same kind of people we were. Yeah, you had a competition. Yeah, everybody was like, cutthroat with it. But at the end of the day, we were part of the Rocky family. And everybody,
Yeah.
Dylan touched on it. After the theater, we used to have like drunken assholes who would, we're going to beat up the gay kids. And it's
Mhm.
like, as soon as one of them started, the whole theater emptied. And you had now had 60 people to fucking take on. Like, you don't
And
do
fishnet
that.
stockings.
Yeah.
Glitter eye makeup. Yep.
So,
Yeah,
it
it's
was,
true.
call it sad, call it pathetic, but it's like, dude, I have amazing memories of my time in Rocky. It's like, I
Same.
still, like, all my best friends these days are still people I met at Rocky.
Yep.
So
That's
I feel like
great.
I've rambled enough with this. If you guys want to throw anything in, feel free. There's
No,
my
but you're
soapbox.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It was our family. It was our friends. And it gave the weirdos a place to go. whether you were weird because you were a theater kid or weird because you were gay or weird because you were just weird. Like, it gave you a place to go, and it was cool. It was cool to be weird. Like, the weirder you were, the cooler you were, you know?
That's
And
the rule.
yeah, I mean, it
They
worked.
They all came together and did something too.
Yes.
Like, you know, we did a great job. Not we, just us. I mean, all of us, everybody, everyone that's still there now, people who were back before we were there, everyone was putting on the show every week, 2 times a week, most of the time.
Yep.
And it was just a great professionally done show for a bunch of misfit kids that were all just a ragtag team thrown together with duct tape.
And PVC.
I know people always talk about how, my generation, but it's true. Like, honestly, somebody experiencing Rocky now, I don't think they're going to get the same experience that you guys were getting back before the internet and all that, because things were just different back then.
We didn't have videotapes to make our costumes. We actually had to go and take pictures of a screen, if you needed to. Like, we had to do it all on that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And fucking Rocky is at 9:30 now in Harvard Square. Not Harvard. Oh my God, there it goes. In Boston, it's at 9:30. It's like that. Dude, we weren't even getting ready yet. Like, we wouldn't start.
We were still at home at 9:30.
And you're all there sharing the experience together for the love of it, instead of now where it would be like, everybody's shooting out immediate things to their Facebook and this is me. But you know what I mean? It was different. God damn it. Back when I was a kid. Okay. Get off my fucking lawn. You don't know how to have fun today. All right. Let's do our rewatch scores on this one.
Okay.
So again, this is a classic slice of pop culture. It's not a movie I'm probably going to watch over and over again, but it's an important movie that deserves an important score. Okay. Frankfurter gets a 5.0 for me. This is a perfect musical, and it only gets the perfect score because Frank is a perfect character. So there you go. That's my score. Glenn.
Yeah, it's a 5. How can I give it anything but a 5? It's so important to who I am as a person and my confidence. Like, I watched both myself and people that I now know who came in all meek and didn't really know who they were blossom into awesome people. And how can I ever take that slice of pop culture and not give it a 5? So it's a 5.
Tony, is this as good as Jaws?
I was going to say, I've only given out 2 5s on the show so far. I think I'm about to give the 3rd. Yeah. The amount of times I've seen it, how do you not give a rewatch score to something you've seen at least 5,000 times at this point in my life? So yeah, I got the friendships, the family, and just the memories. Granted, and again, we didn't always get along. People didn't like me. I didn't like people. But what it came down to is if someone was fucking with someone on our cast or our family, you stood by them. And it taught me a lot about acceptance. I seriously was a different person before I joined Rocky than who I became after being in the cast for a year, without a doubt. So in the movie made that happen. So I have to give it the 5.
You know what's funny, Tony? Being in a band was the exact opposite. I hated everybody I ever played with, almost fucking and it always ended up in backstabbing, a punch in the face, and a stolen girlfriend. So,
see, that's the funny thing is that everyone who was in my band was from Rocky, except for one person. So it was the Rocky Road crossover. But anyway, Pam.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
All right. No offense to any of my old bandmates. Pam, go ahead.
Yeah, of course I'm going to give it a 5 too. And I think, just like Tony said, and kind of Dylan alluded to the same thing. A different person walked in and walked out from that experience, and it was all for the better. So can't be anything but a 5.
Holy shit, we have a perfect 5.
I think this was a lot of fun.
It's a perfect 5.
This was nice seeing you 3 get together and reminisce about your Rocky days. I think it gave a lot of insight to people that, maybe love the movie and wondered what it might be like to experience something like that back in the 90s. So there you go. All right, Dylan, rack it up. We know where it's going. Top of the list.
It's number 1. Number 1, it's sharing space with The Matrix, Star Wars, Beverly Hills Cop, Galaxy Quest, Lethal Weapon 4, The Thing, and Ghostbusters.
Lethal Weapon 4 got a perfect 5?
Yeah, it did.
Wow.
Which movie?
Lethal Weapon 4?
Oh, it's a great movie. I cried.
It is a great movie. I'm just shocked that everybody across the board gave it that. That's all.
It's a fucking good movie. Go watch it, man. It's fucking, yeah. Okay, so that's it. There's nothing above it. There's nothing below it. It's in a group. Next week, we will be reviewing The Game. Michael Douglas, Sean Penn. You know I love my Sean Penn, so be looking forward to this one. We'll be doing that with Mickey and Tony 2.0. And on our sister podcast, Violent Vinyl Radio, we will be breaking down Alice Cooper's Poison. So there you go.
Ooh,
And
good.
if you want to hear us break down Fastway's Trick or Treat album, we did that this week. Did not score well. Had a couple of great
really?
songs. Had a couple of great songs. Couple of 100-watt songs, but the rest of the album fell off a cliff. It was
The movie's better than the album.
the movie. Well, and the album is better with the movie. So there you go. Don't split it up. All right, that's it. Pam, thanks for joining us. Tony, as
Thanks
always,
for
thank you
having
for
me.
joining us. Delyn, I'll see you later down in the kitchen for some Ritz peanut butter crackers, which are always better after 10. Fun fact. So until next time, I just got one question for you. Hey, do you ever have a peanut butter cracker after 10? See you next time.